Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the really complex world of mood disorders, and we're going to do it through the story of someone pretty incredible, a leading expert who knows this world from the inside out because she's lived it. So, listen to this. That's Dr. Redfield Jamison, one of the world's foremost authorities on bipolar disorder, describing what it feels like to be in a manic state. I mean, can you imagine that? A mind so revved up, it just doesn't need sleep. You're flooded with these incredible ideas, feeling totally brilliant, but well, there's a flip side, and it can be devastating.
And this right here is what makes her story so powerful. It's like she's living in two realities at once. On one hand, she's this world-renowned psychiatrist, a top researcher. On the other, she's someone who has been navigating this incredibly difficult landscape her entire adult life. She gets it from both sides, the clinical and the deeply personal.
So, let's start with her story. It really gives us a front-row seat to the dramatic highs and lows of this condition. Her life was like this giant pendulum. On one side, you've got these incredible manic highs. We're talking lavish shopping sprees, racking up debt, feeling absolutely invincible. But what goes up must come down, right? And the crash was brutal, straight into these crippling bouts of depression. This whole cycle nearly cost her life when she was just 28. But that rock bottom moment, it became her turning point. That's when she decided she had to find a way to get help. Okay, so when we hear about these extreme states, it's natural to wonder, what exactly are we talking about here? How is this different from just, having a good day or a bad day? Let's break that down.
Really, it all comes down to time. You can think of emotions like the weather on a specific day. A quick flash of anger, a burst of happiness. They come and they go. But a mood? That's more like the climate. It's the longer-term emotional state that kind of hangs around and colors everything for days or even weeks.
So, a mood disorder is what happens when that internal climate system just goes haywire. It's not just a bad week. It's when those moods become so extreme and they stick around for so long that they seriously start to disrupt a person's life. Broadly speaking, these disorders fall into two main buckets. On one side, you have depressive disorders. That's all about those really deep, prolonged lows. And on the other, you've got bipolar disorders, which are defined by that swing, that alternation between the lows of depression and the extreme highs of mania. All right. Let's take a closer look at these two extremes. We'll start with the lows, with depression, which is, by a long shot, the #1 reason people look for mental health help. You'll sometimes hear depression called the common cold of psychological disorders. Now, that's not to say it isn't serious. It absolutely is. It's just to point out how incredibly widespread it is. But here's the thing. Unlike a cold, you can't just tough it out. It's way more than just feeling sad for a bit. To get a clinical diagnosis of major depressive disorder, a person has to show at least 5 of these signs for more than 2 weeks straight. And this is so important because it shows that this isn't just someone being sad. It's a real physical illness. It messes with your sleep, your appetite, your energy. You can actually measure its effects on the body. Okay, so now let's flip to the other side of bipolar disorder, mania. And we've got to be clear here. This is not just being happy. Not even close. It's this intense, hyperactive state where judgment just goes out the window. You feel on top of the world, but your perception of reality gets, well, seriously skewed. I mean, check out this story from Dr. Jamison's own life. She bought out an entire store's supply of snakebite kits. Why? Because she was absolutely convinced that a rattlesnake attack was about to happen and only she knew about it. In that moment, it made perfect sense to her. It's just a wild example of how impaired your judgment can become. And here's another one that just perfectly captures it. She bought 20 books from Penguin Publishing because she thought it would be nice if the penguins could form a colony. Now that sounds almost cute, right? But it's a perfect window into those grandiose ideas and racing thoughts. It's whimsical on the surface, but it points to impulses that can have really destructive consequences when that high finally fades. So, this all leads to the big question, right? Why? What causes these massive shifts in someone's mood and how they see the world? Well, it's not one simple thing. It's more like a giant puzzle with pieces from our genetics, our brain chemistry, and even our thought patterns. First off, the genetic link is just undeniable. Get this. In studies of identical twins, if one twin has bipolar disorder, there's a 7 in 10 chance their twin will have it too. That's huge. And it doesn't even matter if they were raised together or apart. That tells you just how big a role our DNA plays. Then there's brain chemistry. Let's look at a neurotransmitter called norepinephrine. Think of it as the gas pedal for your brain. It controls arousal and focus. Well, during depression, there's hardly any of it. The tank is empty.
But during mania, the pedal is slammed to the floor and the levels are just off the charts.
And here's the really cool part. We can actually see this stuff. Brain scans show that a depressed brain literally slows down. Activity just drops. But a manic brain, it's lit up like a Christmas tree, firing on all cylinders. This isn't just a feeling. It's a measurable physical thing happening inside your head.
And finally, there's the social cognitive piece. Basically, the way we think matters a lot. If you get stuck in these negative thought patterns, blaming yourself for everything, feeling helpless, it can create this awful self-fulfilling cycle. Your thoughts feed the depression, and the depression feeds the thoughts. It's a vicious loop.
So, okay, these disorders are incredibly complex. There is no single cause, no magic cure. But, and this is a big but, the story does not end with a diagnosis. As Dr. Jamison's life proves, it's all about how you learn to live with it.
Dr. Jamison herself calls the life she's built a rich, imaginative life. I mean, she is living proof that a diagnosis doesn't have to be a life sentence. You can live a full, successful, and amazing life. It's something you manage, something you live with, but it does not have to be who you are.
And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from all of this. Once you understand the reality of mood disorders, that they have real biological roots, it's a lot harder to judge and a lot easier to have empathy. It shifts your whole perspective. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, right? What can we do, what can you do to better support the rich, imaginative lives of the people around you?